I want to take a moment to acknowledge what took place today in the Southern District of New York when the Justice Department dismissed a corruption case against the mayor of New York City, not because of a lack of evidence, not because of any misconduct by the prosecutors in the case, but because of the most serious misconduct of the Attorney General and the top leadership of the Justice Department. Because the Justice Department wanted to leverage that case against the mayor by dismissing the case without prejudice so that they could use him as a political pawn to help effectuate their immigration policy. That just happened today. It is one of any number of serious abuses of the rule of law by this Justice Department. And instead of having a single hearing on what the department is doing, or a single hearing on all the other plainly unlawful acts of this administration. No, instead of having a hearing on any of those things, Republicans are having a hearing on the one tool that can be used to try to mitigate the harm of these illegal actions. Now, I completely concur that whether nationwide injunctions are a good thing or a bad thing has depended entirely on who they're being used against. I count no less than 26 of my Republican colleagues who were vigorously supportive of a nationwide injunction against the use of mifepristone. No problem supporting a nationwide injunction in that case. And of course, on the Democratic side of the aisle, we are applauding injunctions against the unlawful actions of this administration. Where I think I come down at this moment in time gets to your point, Professor Vladeck, and that is the use of nationwide injunctions against an administration that has proven so breathtaking in its lawlessness and who has engaged in such a surge of illegal actions. The effort to do away with this singularly vital tool, I think you called it, at this time would be disastrous for the country. It doesn't mean there's not going to come a time when we should agree on a bipartisan basis to place limits on this capability. I think we should, in particular on the abuse of forum shopping, on picking judges solely on the basis of their political predilection or who appointed them for the purpose of a nationwide injunction. But this is not the moment to do it. This is the moment, frankly, we should be focusing on the illegality, not on the tool to constrain it. That doesn't mean we're powerless to work on legislation on this, and I think many of us have concurred with the idea of legislation that takes effect after this term, when we don't know who the next president is. Senator Cruz, you and I went to the same law school. There was a wonderful professor at the college named John Rawls who wrote a book you probably read about the veil of ignorance, where you cast a veil of ignorance over society and society would develop rules to govern that society, not knowing their attributes, their race, their religion, their gender, none of that. Well, far be it for me to advocate a further veil of ignorance over this body. We are ignorant enough. But perhaps the ignorance of not knowing who the next president is useful here. We should come up with a sensible reform of injunctions and forum shopping, but there's no way this is going to have bipartisan support unless we defer its application until after this administration, when we don't know which way it will cut. I think the same is probably true about filling judicial vacancies. We have just come to this broken place where probably the only way to get things done of this significance is to postpone their application until we don't know who the president will be. My time is almost up, but Professor Vladeck, in the moments I have left, I would yield to you for any kind of response.
Well, just that, I mean, Senator, I think it's revealing that, I, as the minority witness today, am not here defending in all contexts universal injunctions. I've written before that I think that there are too many of them. I've written before that they raise at least some of the prudential concerns that Professor Bray has raised. And I just want to endorse your suggestion that holistic reform to make litigation against the government less manipulable is something we should all be able to support, but that holistic reform has to be about more than just closing off this one avenue today, when there have been other developments that have closed off the other avenues historically that have made Senator Hawley's examples become so much more relevant today.
Thank
Thank you.
Mr. Vladeck. Senator Schmidt.